correspondence from Mike, and he is here with us, correct? And who do we have on the, I'm sorry, but where that computer screen is, I cannot even see the name. So who else have we got with
We
us?
have John Demeter, Sandy Levine, whoever John's iPad is, Paul's iPhone, and Jan Thron.
We've got one.
Oh, is there more under there?
Annette.
Oh, Net Hallas,
Okay,
Hello.
Hello.
She's the other lister.
the other lister.
okay, so what I would like to do is, and you've all received it, I know, but read it into the record. The request from these folks, and we have Mike's written thing, and then we have signed signatures by the other abutting landowner. So I'm just quickly gonna read this in, and then we can start the discussion. My home is located along the 0.3 mile class 4 portion of South Bear Swamp Road. And I support the request to the select board that the town plow and better grade and periodically maintain the ditches along the 0.3 mile section that runs from the current turnaround just past 323 South Bear Swamp Road to the significant ledge in the road, past the driveways for homes located at 399, 401, 406 Bear Swamp Road. If the town would do so without a formal upgrade to class 3, we would be satisfied, similar to what was discussed in the context of upgrading a 0.4 mile section of McCullough Road in 2015. None of us seeks a significant expansion of the road nor grading better than the level done in 2021. If the work sought can be done only by an upgrade to class 3, as appears to have been the case at McCullough Hill Road, then we would like the class 3 upgrade. I am signing below on behalf of everyone who lives at the addresses identified below for me. Thank you for consideration. And that is signed by, excuse me, Mike Hill, Diane Chapin, Daniel Riley, who is here with us in the room. John Lund. They just don't want to come.
Mike Klein, probably.
And Mike Klein, yes. Yes. So with that, I guess we're ready to hear from you, Mike.
Thanks. One thing I'd say is that the language here wasn't just mine. This was reflects the input of all 5 people. So it's true that I was the lead author, but I sat around. I had talked to everybody before I met with you September 6th. And so when I represented to you that this was, not only was there no opposition, unlike McCullough Hill, where there were 3 people at the meeting who spoke against it, there was no opposition within the class 4 or anybody else I've talked to. In fact, I've talked to other people on South Bear Swamp Road who have said, well, absolutely, of course, you know, we're taxpayers. We can't individually pay to improve our roads. We need ambulance service. We need services. And now we have a family this year, after 8 years, this is when I really decided to get more proactive about it. A family with 3 small children who couldn't get oil delivered. I pay about $10,000 in taxes a year. I have for 8 years. I can't get garbage picked up in my house. I mean, and when I moved here, there have been 3 or 4 changes since I was here last time I've been spoken. I want to make sure you're all aware of them. I'm not going to talk about a couple of other changes because I don't want to, because they create more heat than light. But I do want you to know that the changes since the last time we were here, and hopefully this is enough to get at least 3 votes. One is we have this petition. And Peter, I distributed this petition and asked my 4 neighbors who I tried to keep out of this to sign it, only because Peter, during our call, said, well, if everybody else agrees with you, that's good enough for me. Peter was very clear that he could not speak for the board. But I figured if I had Peter's vote, that would be enough for me to circulate the petition, so we did. Second is the issue of precedent was important to you all, September 6th, and I respect that completely. I think we've answered that. McCullough Hill is the precedent. It came up very clearly. What do we do about McCullough Hill and precedent? And the board voted unanimously that 0.4 miles is not enough of a stretch to be considered precedent that we need to worry about. In fact, if there's precedent, it's McCullough Hill and you have to stick with it. So I mean, we could make differences. That's at 1,400 feet, we're at 1,500 feet. Those are distractions. We have precedent and I think you have to stick with it. I didn't want to get into McCullough Hill. I didn't want to get into East Bear Swamp Road, but I do want transparency. I want to understand the law. My home is my largest investment. And the third change, and this was a big issue September 6th, was Mike, you knew before you moved here that you were buying an unplowed road. That is, I said September 6th, well, maybe I was stupid, but I didn't know. So I went back September 6th and I wasn't stupid. I looked at all the papers. Nobody told me this road was unplowed. Nobody told me the word class 4. It's not required. I mean, you have to require to disclose that stuff. Mold and what elementary school there is and everything else, but you don't have to disclose. Nor does this town do anything to disclose it. There's a sign that says it's not a through road, but there's a sign on East Bear Swamp Road that says it's not a through road before it goes on for a half mile to plow and grade for one family. Well, all no through road means is that somewhere there's a dead end or there's a ledge or a barrier. I saw a perfectly well graded road, and it was a perfectly well graded road until this year. And I got into a little bit in the last meeting why I think that is, and clearly people didn't want to hear it, and I don't want to go into it. But there's no doubt to me there's been a change this year, and it's not a good change. The third thing is, I guess I've talked about 3 things. One is the petition, one is precedent, one is lack of notice. The fourth thing was I had a couple of very good conversations with Peter. And Peter said, look, let's diffuse this. The September 6th meeting wasn't good. And there were some things that were said there that just weren't true. And I don't want to go into them. If we can get the votes today without going into them, I'd like to do that. But Peter said, let's diffuse it. Very smart move. Let's have a meeting. Let's, you, Peter, and Vic, and Eric, go out there and just look at it. I can't see how anybody here is going to vote against this without having gone, had the opportunity to come see. I mean, right now, the road is washing down into my lawn. I mean, it's a trespass, frankly, and that's only this year. And there's a trout stream in front of my yard. I mean, it's a foot deep and a foot wide, and it goes on for, I don't know, 60 feet, 80 feet. On McCullough Hill Road, it's smooth as a pancake. And, it's not fair to the 5 people who live here and pay taxes to be treated this way. So, I can go into more, but I really hope I don't. I would like to have a vote approving this. I think we had enough to get a vote before we had the September 6th meeting. Issues were raised September 6th, and we've answered them. We've got proof that all 5 people want it, and nobody spoke against it. And this thing's been listed publicly twice. Unlike McCullough Hill, where 3 people were actively against it. We're not going to change the bucolic nature of this. I bought most of the right side of the road here, and I've put it in current use. I mean, and I've tried to reach out to the town, the head of the recreation committee, to say, look, if people want to hike on that, they can. But that person, Mitch Osaki, has never responded. And so we're trying to keep things in a way that's good for everybody in the town. This town has in its plan that it wants open space. It wants public access to recreation. When Mitch Osaki, because of what happened in Menage, doesn't respond, that's objectionable to me as a taxpayer. And I think it's objectionable to the town, the people who voted for the town plan, who says they want that stuff. They didn't want Mitch Osaki to secretly say to Menage, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, you can break this property up into 6 parcels without any consideration of open space or public recreation or species impact or wetlands. You go ahead and as far as I know, well, nobody in the town fix it. Mitch is not even a lawyer. He can't give opinions like that. And yet the lawyer, nobody spoke up and said to Menage, that's not true. So Menage goes into the hearing. The only person who has said to him, look, you can't break up into more than 3 without doing that analysis. I gave Mr. Menage a way to do that, to make it 3, still give John Christian his land back to him. Everybody would win. The town would win. They'd get 200 acres. Mr. Menage would make a 500% profit, $1 million. But Menage, what he heard was that this Flatlander Washington lawyer had come up and was the only person saying that the law was the law. And Mitch Osecki sat on the panel 2 months after giving him that secret written opinion and never told anybody. 24 people showed up as interested parties at that hearing, and Mitch Osecki never disclosed. Yeah, I'm sitting on the panel, but by the way, I told him an answer, and he couldn't give that answer at the hearing because all 24 people said 2 + 2 equals 4, not 3. And 4 is a magic number. 4 or more, you have to consider the town's interests, open space, public access to recreation, species impact. We're gonna lose all those things if we continue to let go of the law. And Mitch Osecki let go of the law. And then we went to court. And the town had secret conversations with Howard Minash and claimed privilege over them. That's suspicious. There's nobody who's been to a month of law school or has watched, court TV who thinks that you claim privilege over your conversations with your opponents. And yet that happened. I tried to meet with the town with the head of the Middlesex Conservation Commission during the proceedings, and we couldn't do it. Not unless we could ahead of time lay out everything we wanted to say in a way that it could be shared with Minash. That would have been an insane thing to do. So we did. I'm sorry I stuck up as I did, but I followed the law. These 400 acres around my house, I think they were taken from from John Christian in a way that was grossly unnecessarily harsh. To sell 400 acres and his family home on a Tuesday morning at auction to whoever could show up with cash is going to lead to all of our properties, all of our wild spaces being chopped up into 18 pieces. Here, Minash threatened at the hearing, look, we only want 4, we could have asked for 18.
Mike, I'm just gonna interrupt you for a minute.
Okay.
We're not here tonight to talk about the Minaj business. What we're here to talk about tonight is your written request to us. So
Appreciate that.
you given us a lot of background about other issues that we're really not concerned about tonight. So if we could focus on your request, I think the board would,
I appreciate that.
Would
If I
appreciate
didn't
that.
see one as directly connected to the other, I wouldn't have gone into this. And as I said to you, I didn't want to go into that.
okay,
And there's
well,
other things I
let's say for tonight that that's gonna be a sidebar issue. I mean, it is beyond the scope of the meeting tonight for sure. Okay.
Well. maybe.
So let me just talk for a minute. So,
Okay.
I've carefully read your request. And there's sort of 2 things going on here that make a big difference in this. And I have carefully read again our highway ordinance, which we are in the throes of revising, by the way, but it is what it is as of right now. And in this request, there are basically 2 issues. One is maintenance of a class 4 road in Middlesex. And that I think is a fairly easy for one for us. We have obligations in terms of maintaining class 4 roads. And, we can relatively, I'm not saying we can make it perfect and that it's always going to be perfect, but I think, and I'm interested to hear what Victor and Eric have to say, but I think we can potentially restore that road back to the way it was when it was in better condition. And it is substantially washed out down on the side there, down the ledge and all of that. But, and here's the big but, to plow the road in winter time, which you also seem to be asking for, that means it has to be a class 3 road, which means it has to go through the upgrade process. And you're asking the town to do this. And I can't say for the board that we're unwilling to do it, but that's a big hurdle, I think, for us. So, I know you think you somehow have it in your head that we did this at McCullough Hill Road, even though the neighbors objected, and that means that we need to do it for you. I respectfully disagree with you on that. I mean, that was a totally different process and totally different reasoning. Our practice and our policy has been, and it's spelled out in detail in our highway policy. It has been pointed out to me through our town attorney that, and he is here, I believe he's still there. Right? Yeah.
He is. Yes.
That our highway policy, that really what governs this process is state statutes, which supersede our highway policy. So, you know, we're looking at the state statutes, we're trying to understand them. At the same time, we're looking at our highway policy. But what our highway policy says is that if a group of people, whoever, you and your neighbors, want to make that a class 3 road, which means it's going to be plowed in the winter and maintained to class 3 standards. It's your obligation to bring it up to class 3 standards, not our obligation. And all I'm doing is reading exactly what's here. I'm not making that up. And the only other way to do it, I guess, and help me out here if somebody knows better, is if you can get a petition of 5% of the voters in the town to upgrade the road, then we're forced to take it up as an issue.
To consider.
At town meeting, you're talking to Peter.
Yes, yes. It would be warned as an article at town meeting.
That's helpful. I did not see it. I saw the 5% as merely another. Is not getting us any further than what we're doing right now, which is the board considering it. That's the way I read the law. But if it'll get us further than that, we'll do the 5%. I didn't, as I said, in September 6th, I didn't see any reason to bother 5% of the town because all it does is get you to consider it.
But the problem is, we're trying to follow our policy, our written past policy.
What is it in the policy that prevents you from saying yes here? Because you said state statute trumps the town ordinance.
Right,
State
and I am
statute-
not an expert on the state statutes, and we will
But your
certainly.
lawyer is here and your lawyer has told you this, so
Okay.
let him speak.
All right,
He's
Yes,
the
please.
meeting. Let's hear from you.
Well, good evening, everyone. Everybody hear me okay?
Treasury report, we'll postpone until Eric gets here. But it was-
Speaking, hold on.
I got him.
You got him, Sarah?
Okay?
Yep.
So anyway, good evening, everyone. Just to clarify, it is true that the issues of maintaining highways, repairing highways, reclassifying them, upgrading them, downgrading them, discontinuing them, all that kind of stuff. That's pretty much a question that is governed by Vermont statutes. But there are some holes in the statutes, and as a result of that, many towns adopt what Middlesex has adopted, which is their own highway ordinance or their own highway policy. What I have indicated is that where we have provisions in a town highway policy that are not consistent with state statute, then the policy has to yield to the statute. Here I think Peter referenced a portion of the town's ordinance, which basically sets forth the public policy in Middlesex, at least as of now, which is that for class 4 roads, the town does not perform substantial maintenance or ongoing regular maintenance and plowing. Under the statute, the standard is that the town has the discretion to supply whatever level of maintenance to a class 4 highway that it deems in the public good. And I think the buzzwords are public good and necessity. So in a way, we can say that those two provisions may be inconsistent, but in another way, we can say they're actually quite consistent because the public good and convenience of the town, as the public good requires, it can be said to be reflected in the ordinance provision that says we're not going to, it's in the public good not to spend town resources on regular maintenance on class 4 highways. So that's one way to look at it. With respect to a request that has come before the select board, I think that that's what we have right now. It's simply a request by 5 different property owners, if I'm counting it right, to do some specific maintenance work, which is, I guess, some grading, and also to do some work on a regular basis, which involves plowing of the road. So that's a matter for the select board's discretion. There has been no request that I can see for an upgrade to class 3, other than through sort of a secondary request in this written document that was presented to the board and as part of what we're discussing this evening. And so under the statutes, the way in which you get a reclassification proceeding going is there's only 2 ways. One is if a petition is forwarded to the select board that has that minimum of 5% of the voters, which we've already talked about. That's one way to get the matter before the select board. And just for clarification, it doesn't go before the voters. It goes before the select board at a hearing. It's not a town vote or anything like that. The second way to get a reclassification or upgrade request like this in front of the select board is the select board can decide on its own motion that it wants to entertain that proceeding. Then it goes forward, and it's in either of those 2 events, it will schedule a hearing. And it's basically an evidentiary hearing before the select board, which requires the board members to go out, take a look at the road, do an inspection, come back, take whatever evidence from interested parties they want to hear from, and then decide whether under that same standard, the public good and necessity and convenience of the town, whether under that standard, the select board wishes to reclassify whatever portion of the road we're talking about. In this case, it would be an upgrade from class 4 to class 3. In doing so, the select board has the right, but not the obligation. The select board can require the petitioning parties or the requesting parties to first upgrade the road to class 3 standards at the property owner's expense prior to entertaining a reclassification designation. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And I hope I've answered at least most of the questions that have been bandied about here, but I'm happy to answer any further ones or to clarify what I've already said. Thanks.
I'm sorry. Renee.
John's iPad. I don't know the name of the person, but there's a question on.
Okay, so that's the end route.
Yeah.
Who is John's iPad? I'm sorry.
Yes, hi, this is Sarah Lund, sorry. I'm doing this way because I have a little cold, so I'm not there in person. But I just have a question regarding us paying the expense to upgrade the road. So I know that my husband and I, John Lund, and I live at 406 South Bear Swamp. So we are part of that petition that you're talking about in that portion of the road. And we had looked into making some modifications to the road previously when we first purchased our property. And I know it says on the website, I'm double checking, that we have to have permission in order to make adjustments to the road. So how exactly does that play into what you guys are talking about with us doing the upgrade? What would we need to do to obtain that permission to make adjustments to upgrade it to class 3?
Victor, you want to take that?
I think you'd have to be you'd have to be specific in what you wanted to do.
Okay,
An upgrade could be anything.
okay. I'm just thinking in the sense of how you guys keep referencing that we would pay to upgrade it to a class 3. So what permissions, what would we need to do in order to get permission to do that then is my question.
So I think what you're talking about potentially is two different things. Help me out here, Victor. if I-
Okay,
But if a resident on a class 4 road comes to the town and said, you know, we'd like to improve the road by putting down some gravel and doing some ditching, to make the road a better road.
mhm,
And that has happened quite a few times over the years that I can remember. Typically, the road commissioner and the road foreman go out and meet with the landowner and agree on what the scope of work is and say, yes, we give you permission to do that, or we will allow you to do it, but you have to do this and that and the other. But it's still a class 4 road.
okay,
Still a class 4 road. If you come to the town and say, you know, and this is where we get back to the snow plowing issue, that we want to have the road maintained and passable year round by the town, that's a class 3 road. So then the process would be that you have to bring the road up to class 3 standards, which is a certain width, a certain slope. I don't have, yeah, it's in the town highway policy.
right,
But it's two different things, and that's what I'm trying to get at. I think figuring out how to do some maintenance to the class 4 road and make it better and make it passable and take care of the watching and improve the ditching. I mean, you know, it can't be our highest priority, but certainly our intent is to do that, especially on class 4 roads where people live. I mean, we
mhm,
want people to be able to get back and forth to their houses and have the road be as safe as it could reasonably be. And I also believe by law, and help me out on this, Victor, we are responsible for the maintenance of culverts on class 4 roads, are we not? So if there's a culvert that washes out or collapses or whatever it is, that's automatically our responsibility.
But not if it's
Okay.
your. Not if it's a private, not if it's at the driveway culvert.
Correct.
It's only like across the road culvert.
Yeah.
right. Okay, I wasn't sure when you guys kept speaking of the residents, taking the standard up to a class 3 road, if there were other permissions we would need to go through in order to make that happen because of how the website read, but thank you for clarifying that.
Process, and the process is outlined, and we can send you, if you don't already have it, the road policy. But it's a process, and there's a public hearing involved, and there's, you know, yes, it's a process.
Can I ask a clarifying question? I'm still confused about the difference between what he is presenting with 5 people signing and asking us to either just act like it's a class 3, but not actually upgrade it. So, but you know, maintain it. Or if we can't do that, they'd like a class 3 upgrade. What is the difference between that and the 5% of the voters? What happens if there's 5% that changes this? I guess I'm asking.
I can answer that. The difference is that if 5% of the voters present a petition to the select board formally requesting that this portion of South Bear Swamp Road be reclassified from a class 4 highway to a class 3 highway, that takes away the discretion of the select board as to whether or not it wants to grant this particular request or not. It forces the select board's hand, if you will, and it requires the setting of a hearing to take evidence on the issue. It doesn't require the select board to simply reclassify the highway as class 3 simply because there's a petition received. But it does require the select board to set a hearing, to visit the premises, take a look at the road, do that inspection, and then come back, have a hearing. And after hearing the evidence and based on that evidence, make a decision as to whether or not this portion of the road should be reclassified to a class 3. At the present time, you don't have a 5% petition. You merely have a request from 5 landowners within the town, 5 residents who are making a request, which at this point it's basically an informal request And it's addressed to the discretion of the select board as to what they want to do about it. So,
But if we, then my question is, if it gets to that level of the 5% plus the public hearing, is there a vote by the public on that? Like, and then it's our responsibility?
no, there is not. There is not a vote by the public. It's strictly an event. It's a what we call a quasi judicial hearing before the select board. The select board acts as the judge of the proceedings. They take the evidence. They hear from the petitioners. They hear from any other interested parties. There has to be notice of the hearing, much like there would be notice for a zoning hearing, for a permit, for a a Board of Civil Authority hearing, any kind of quasi judicial hearing. It would be similar to that. And the decision of the select board could be appealed to the Superior Court in the same manner as, say, a zoning permit decision by the Development Review Board, subdivision decision by the Planning Commission, although I guess we don't do that anymore in Middlesex, those kinds of things. But it doesn't go before the town for a vote or anything like that.
I just have one more question. So then if this came all the way to a hearing and we decided, yes, we're gonna upgrade this to a class 3 road, is that now our financial responsibility to make it a class 3, or is that still the responsibility of these people who wanted to have it upgraded?
I believe that under the statute and also under our road ordinance or policy, the granting of an upgrade to class 3 can be conditioned upon the petitioners being required to foot the bill for bringing the road up to class 3 standards before the select board takes it over as a class 3. At that point, once the reclassification occurs, the town would treat that portion of the highway just like any other class 3 highway, and you would expend the town's funds to pave it, maintain it, ditch it, whatever you do with your class 3 roads.
So.
Thank you.
So I have another question, just to be absolutely clear about the process. If a petition is presented and we have a public hearing, could the select board not then make the decision to put it on the town meeting ballot and say, it's been requested that we upgrade this road. And we're gonna put it before the voters? Or is it still that the petitioners have to pay for it, and all we're saying is, if you upgrade it to class 3 standards, we'll maintain it?
There's no process within the statute. There's no provision that mentions any kind of involvement by way of a town meeting, Peter. It's an evidentiary hearing before the select board. I think that if at any time the select board decided upon presentation of a petition that it wanted to put the matter before the voters, that would merely be an advisory opinion by the voters. And if I was asked, I would caution against it, only because the select board needs to make and admittedly, it's a subjective kind of amorphous kind of determination as to what the overall public good requires in a situation like this. And I could see where you would be tempted to want to get a vote of the entire town to better gauge what the public, thinks, what the voters think the public good requires. But I think that potentially could run afoul of the statutory process itself, which basically confines the inquiry to an evidentiary hearing before the select board.
You have a question, Mike?
Yeah, thank you. A few things. One, to be clear, there has been a request, just as much as there was at McCullough, where it was an informal petition by one individual, wasn't 5%. And there has been a formal request by 5 people, and we were told that if all 5 wanted it, we'd have at least 1 vote. But we made that request in writing, despite the fact that I didn't want to involve my 4 neighbors for reasons I've talked about. And what the statute says is, at that point, it is completely within your discretion as the board to upgrade what we've asked for, which is if the only way for us to get this plowing and this limited improvement is through class 3, then we are asking now for class 3. I had not heard the distinction, and thank you, Rob, that there might be some difference between you don't have to have an evidentiary hearing, and Rob apparently believes you can't have an evidentiary hearing unless 5% of the town weighs in. You are free to vote yes tonight. I don't think Rob would disagree with that.
Mike, but I just want to clarify, that's not what I said. What I said is that without the 5% petition, it's up to the select board, as you just indicated, Mike, that the select board has the discretion as to whether or not it wants to entertain having a reclassification hearing, a formal hearing based solely on an informal request. As I indicated earlier, the select board can act to do that even without a request from anyone. It could be that the select board at some point says, there's a portion of a class 4 road in town that's seen a lot of development, and we need to make sure that that road's in great shape. And we are going to take it upon ourselves to schedule a hearing on our own motion to reclassify a current section of class 4 and make it class 3. They can also do the reverse at their own discretion, make a portion of class 3, class 4. What I'm saying is they can decide tonight, based on this informal request from you and your neighbors, to schedule that formal hearing. It's up to them. What is not up to them is once there's a 5% statutory petition filed, they no longer have the discretion as to whether to say, oh, should we have a hearing or not? They have to have a hearing at that point. Right now, they have the discretion to either accept the request that's in your piece of paper, to deny that request, or to do a third thing, do something else in between. So I hope that's clear.
I don't think I've said tonight anything to the contrary of that. All I'm trying to say, Rob, is that you have the discretion tonight to say, yes, thumbs up. We're going to treat the 5 people on this 0.3 mile section the same as you treat the 1 person on the 0.5 mile section of East Bear Swamp Road, and the same as we treat the people along the 0.4 mile section. We're going to improve it. You don't have to make us pay. You have that ability tonight. No one is trying to force your hand. We think 3 of you will recognize that this is simply the right thing to do. I frankly think 5 of you will. And nobody is preventing you from doing this tonight. And if we do it tonight, we can just avoid further discussion. I would like to. The other thing is, we don't have to get 5%. We don't have to have an evidentiary hearing. None of that is a prerequisite to court action. Simply doing something against 1 person for actions that don't seem legitimate, that in itself is enough for court action under Rhodes versus Georgia. And nobody wants to go there. We simply want the right thing to be done here because it's deserved here. There are 5 families here. And this is not increased development, Rob. These 5 homes have been there for a long time. And we were there without complaint until this year when things really got bad. And until a family with small children moved in and literally couldn't get fuel. And that did get to all of us saying, why are we being treated so differently here? And we don't have to go into the reasons, but what we do need to do is have, I think.
Are you asking us to pay for it as well?
I am. I think I want the same treatment as McCullough Hill and East Bear Swamp Road. Yeah.
Can I just clarify? I remember that being a conversation that we had prior to anyone doing a petition. We've talked about that for years because it's a hassle for the plow.
Well, okay.
Yes, Sarah.
I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to read the record. So McCullough Hill was a warned hearing. We went through the process that Rob's talking about. The select board took it upon itself, just like it took it upon itself to downgrade 5 roads in 2019 and then 1 more road in 2021. There was a the board held a hearing and made a finding, and we actually, I think, and there was a decision that was made afterward that was formal and that was recorded in the land record. So it wasn't something like people just came to the board and asked them. There was notice, we advertised. I know because they did the advertisements. So Mike, that's the process that Rob's talking about. That board went through that when they upgraded that elbow of McCullough Hill Road.
Wait, there was a hearing
Yes. There was a
Wow.
hearing and there was a process. I have I have it in the minutes. I would be glad to share them with you.
Not reflected in these minutes. I would like to make a formal request tonight for all the documents around that hearing and all the documents around Center Road, because Center Road has repeatedly been given to us as a reason, and the budget there for why.
Well, I'll be happy to get whatever documents I have for McCullough Road. I'm not sure I know about Center Road.
We couldn't hear what you were saying.
I said I can, easily get the documents for McCullough Hill Road, but I'm not sure I know what you're talking about with Center Road. Are you talking about when the interstate was put in?
Let's take it one at a time. So when I learned about McCullough, all I learned about were the minutes that I provided to the board. If there's more to it than that, yeah, I'd like to know. So if you want to give it to me informally, great.
right.
Otherwise,
Yeah, just come in the office. We'll go through it. I've got a file here.
So I think potentially where we are tonight, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, thanks. So I have a question then, and I'm not sure if for McCullough, I haven't followed this stuff on a town basis, but for McCullough's upgrades, if the local people on the road paid for it, like you were suggesting earlier that we would, probably do, that was your initial, deduction about the likely procedure that we would have to pay for. And then Sarah Lund came out and, she asked what that procedure would be based on her previous communications. And it sounded like the town would come in and they would be discussing with each landowner for various segments of the road, whether or not the upgrade could occur, whether or not it was feasible, whether or not it was, going to ultimately be able to produce a class 3 road. And so if you have to do that for 5 different landowners without a plan in mind, it's very easy for you to come across a stumbling block 2 years down the road where you say, well, it's just unacceptable to update this portion of the road of this 0.4 miles. And so the whole effort is for naught. So that should be avoided, with a plan.
I think the way the process goes, and help me out here, Victor, or anybody else, is what we would look for as the residents on the road to come to us and say, here's the plan. We're going to widen the road. We're going to do this. We're going to do that to bring it up to the class 3 standards. And then it's up to you folks to decide how you divvy up the cost of that. If it got to that point, it's not that it would be considered, 5 individual sections
Yes, that would
upgrading, because that doesn't work. That doesn't work for anybody. What I was about to say, and I'd be very interested in hearing from the other board members, but I think we're at the point where I don't think it makes any sense to ask for a petition with 5% of the voters to have the hearing. If we can have a hearing, I say we have a hearing and we do the process. I mean, what I want to warn you about is we've still got our road policy in front of us. And our road policy says that it's up to the landowners to pay for the upgrade. So it's one thing to say, we'll go through the process for the upgrade, and we haven't had any testimony or anything about what the potential cost of this is. We have, from the town's point of view, we have no money in our budget to do any of this proposed work. So, is it going to be a bond issue? Where's the money going to come from if the town's going to do it, if the town's even willing to do it, or the select board's even willing to do it? So I'm fine, and I don't know how the other board members feel with going ahead with the hearing, getting some of the evidence, more information, and looking at this. But I don't want you to think that because we're potentially agreeing to have a hearing, that we're agreeing that we're potentially going to pick up the cost of this. And I don't even know what the cost is. So,
well, You said earlier that the road policy is subject to the state statute. The
Yep.
State statute says it's discretionary. And we know from McCullough that Vic and other landowners, and Vic owns all the 0.4 mile stretch or one half of it. And
0.31 miles.
okay, well, it's a 0.4 mile stretch, and as I look at the no trespassing signs there, virtually all of it, or okay, 80% of it is you. And so he's got the road in front of his property and the road where his businesses are plowed in both ways, and I don't have any part of mine
I don't
plowed.
have any dispute there.
I don't think, was he asked to pay for it in 2015?
So I know I've said this before, and I'm gonna say it again, and if I'm saying it wrong, somebody please correct me. But the whole situation at McCullough Hill was that it was done for the convenience of the town.
Yes.
We kept hearing from the road crew that they were expending extra fuel, extra time, extra mileage on the truck because they would drive down the road to that little short section, which wasn't class 3. They weren't allowed to drive through that because it was closed in the wintertime, so they had to turn around and go back to the town garage or the town pit or wherever the sand was and come back. Expensive. So they came to the town and said, it makes sense, there isn't that much work to do to bring the road up to class 3 standard, and we strongly recommend you do it. So with that, we went through the hearing process, and it's true, we did hear from landowners who were concerned, they had concerns about traffic and other concerns about what this upgrade would mean. But that was an upgrade that was initiated by the town, not initiated by residents.
Peter, Paul has his hand up.
I'm sorry.
Paul has his hand up.
Yes,
Hey, guys, can everybody hear me okay?
yep,
So I just want to give a little bit of history just with the McCullough Road thing. I know it's kind of seems like it's been thrown in the midst of this. Everything that Peter said was correct. You know, we actually cut off a half an hour worth of routine plow and sand time from our route, given that we're now able to use that as a through road. The second part of that is we were actually using 2 private driveways to turn around in, which we would ultimately have to go back and fix up in the spring because those 2 private driveways were, you know, we were responsible for causing the damage. So there was some additional cost and labor and material included in just the annual maintenance every year. The second part of that I kind of want to emphasize is that McCullough Road is a through road. Number one, we do use that to go through, and it also relieved a lot of mud season pressure off of Center Road and Brook Road. So we actually saw those roads taking less traffic on during mud season, especially Center Road. You know, so there was actually a lot more benefit that at the time myself and Steve Martin did not even see forecasted for the upgrade of McCullough Road. I know for a fact that it's a lot more used. I know some, you know, residents weren't too thrilled about that. Ultimately, though, safety wise, when we've had closures on both Brook Road and Center Road, McCullough Road has given some relief to that other road. So, like I said, there's been a lot more, you know, a lot more benefits of that road being upgraded than simply for a particular landowner or you know, a financial thing. There's been a lot of long-term benefits for that. So I just wanted to make sure that that's you know, that's noted. You know, there was a lot of thought and, you know, thinking around that when we did that, and ultimately it was, you know, we always tried to uphold for the better of the town as a whole, and that particular road definitely, you know, it definitely stood by that.
And for the record, Vic was not on the board, nor was he road commissioner during that time.
Correct.
And I wasn't a petition.
No, and I don't even.
I
think he
didn't
came to the
petition
meeting.
to have it upgraded.
I'm aware of that. I'm asking if you were asked to pay in the same way that Dan is being asked to pay or others being asked to pay. And it wasn't an informal petition.
Why would I be asked to pay if I wasn't a petitioner? I don't understand that.
Are you saying tonight, Vic, that you want me alone to pay for this as the only informal petition?
Where did that come from? I didn't say that. I don't understand that, no.
Well, Dan is here tonight in the same way that you sat there in 2015. He's not a petitioner. He signed a petition at the request of Peter to see if he joined in what, or agreed with
So
what I was
therefore, he is
asking.
a petition.
He is a petitioner.
He is.
Okay, okay, I came here September 6th. And I made the petition informally, the same as your neighbor did in 2015. And I was
Who's our
asked,
neighbor?
all right. Scotty Brown. So I am the equivalent of Scotty Brower in 2015. And I was asked by you, well, how do the other people feel? And I said, well, I'd rather keep them out of it for the reasons I've tried to describe, but I've been limited to.
Mhm.
But I did show in writing that they all support this. And there too, I was told that if I showed that, I would have at least one vote. Appears I don't.
I, by the way, disagree with that, Mike. I never told you would have my vote. I said it would make your case stronger is what I said.
I think you said.
But-
Anyway.
I just want to chime in with some more facts. I have and I'll be happy to share this with you, Mike. So in my McCullough Hill Road file of a petition of approximately 91 signatures of people who petitioned the board to request the upgrade of McCullough Hill Road back in 2014-15. So there's a copy here. The board had to take it up because it was a petitioned request. It wasn't something that the board did just on its own with the statutory requirement of signatures.
My only knowledge of McCullough Hill is what's in the minutes, and that doesn't.
Well, there's a lot more.
Yeah, well, thank you, and I'll look at that.
So to bring the hearing, but not the hearing, but the discussion tonight to some kind of conclusion, are we as the select board willing to have a hearing on this matter? Without asking these folks to get a petition with 5% of the voters? I mean, for me, I think it makes sense to do it, but I don't know how we.
Well, my question is, do we at that hearing have to come up with a decision as a select board right then and there, whether we're going to ask the residents to pay for the upgrade or that we will pay for the upgrade? When does that decision get made when you have that hearing? He's gonna answer.
Yeah,
You're on mute, Rob.
I thought I took
Oh, there you
myself
go.
off
No,
mute.
You're good.
So the way that the statute is written, is it allows, basically after you hold your hearing, you have 60 days to file written findings with Sarah's office and to notify all the petitioners and interested parties of what your decision is. So let's just take a hypothetical. Let's say you hear all the evidence and you decide that the public good requires a reclassification of this section of South Bear Swamp from class 4 to class 3. You would make that order. That order would get recorded at the town clerk's office. And as of that time, this section of the road would become class 3. But as part of your order, you can also require that the petitioners must bear the expense of bringing the highway, this portion of the highway anyway, up to class 3 standards. So they would then have to do that. If they did not do that, then I would anticipate what would happen in the future is you've now got a short, at least a section of a town highway that has been reclassified to class 3, but it's not up to class 3 standards, which is not a good situation, to say the least. So if for whatever reason the petitioners did not comply with your order that you set forth in the reclassification order to be responsible to bring the road up to class 3 standards, you could then later on your own motion do another classification proceeding and put it back to class 4. So that's usually the way in which it works. And that's usually the incentive to get the petitioners to provide the contribution necessary to bring the road up to standards.
first. Right,
And again, I should add that under the statute, and I think Mike pointed this out before, the decision to require, you don't have to require the residents, the petitioners to foot the bill in that way, but you have the right to do that. It's discretionary.
Can I make one last comment?
Yes.
So I just wanted, I want to acknowledge that, I appreciate, Mike bringing this to the select board and working with his neighbors. But I also want to just state that I take a little bit of offense at this accusation that we as a select board are deliberately or sort of, doing something to keep people not safe. And that you need to be treated like everyone else in town. And the reality is that most people in town, a lot of people live on private driveways, people who live on class 4 roads that have knowingly moved in. And in fact, I'd love to live on a class 4 road because it would get graded once in a while, but I don't. I live in a private driveway. We plow it, we sand it. We can't get an oil guy up there in the middle of winter. It's really hard because we live in a steep driveway. And I just want to say that we are a group of volunteers here who are doing our best to meet the needs of the town, knowing that we're not always going to be able to meet everyone's needs. And I think, Mike, you have the right spirit in that you are, requesting this. I think, frankly, it's actually a fairly valid request. I know this road very well, but I would appreciate it if you approached it in a way that was a little friendlier and less accusatory, because we want to do what's right by the town. We want to consider this, but I don't want to be accused as someone who is deliberately not taking care of our townspeople. So I just want to put that out there, that
I appreciate.
kindness goes a long way, and friendliness, and not the, your immediate sort of moving into lawyer mode and making me feel threatened by your words. So I just want to make that.
I appreciate you saying that. So no vote had been taken on this until now. There were 4 things, said at the last hearing that the things that have been, where I have been vilified, have nothing to do with the road. They all occurred before. And so I did make this request because of changes in the road this year that are very specific. And I was bothered, but I wanted to keep it all private. I said that to Peter. And I would like very much to just have a thumbs up vote to this, because I do see the vilification, the prior vilification that has very much been directed at me, and I will tell you at some point in writing, so you have it. It's more of a human resources thing, frankly, but I will tell you of it. But because now it has spread to not just hurt me, but to hurt my neighbors. And that I will not abide by. So I'm sorry if it seems lawyerly to you. I have worked patiently with the town for many years to try to say, well, can we do this? Tell me what the cost would be. I'll do it. I was told, well, I did not get a direct answer. So that is my concern. And this is not lawyer mode. This is just English. This is just what I've said and what has happened to me.
So just to focus on the issue at hand here. I would like to suggest 2 things. I would like to suggest a process whereby we look at maintenance of the class 4 road to improve the situation that exists now, which I would hope could happen in the short term. And I would suggest that process would be that Eric and Victor would go out and meet with you and your neighbors and agree what work they can do to improve the washout damage on the class 4 road, to in the short run make that situation better. That's number 1. Number 2, I would propose, and it's going to be a select board vote, but I would propose that we agree to hold a hearing on this matter about the upgrade to class 3. And not require you to do the
Yeah,
petition process.
I don't see the
Agree to
point
go
of that.
forward with the process.
Is your attorney okay with your meeting? Because he objected to it the afternoon before it was supposed to happen last time.
He only objected to that because he said it should be something that happens at a select board meeting, which is what's going on exactly right now. So no, it is common, just let me finish. It's common practice for our road commissioner and road foreman to go out and meet with residents about maintenance problems on town roads. And I misspoke when I said I would agree to meet with you, and I've apologized to you about that, but we're here right now, so that's what we're considering.
Okay.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that, I think John Lund called me. And he wanted to know if we could come over and make a grading before winter. We could grade the road. And we have plans to do that. We haven't done it yet. I don't know if you're aware of how much we have to do and the fact that we didn't have any help for a couple of months and we didn't have a foreman until July 5th. That's kind of put us behind, and we have a road that we have to maintain up here on Center Road. We have sand to do or did, and we have gravel crushing that we're doing. And we haven't had time yet, but I'm sure Eric, if he was here, would say that he was planning to do that. But I don't know if that's gonna be good enough for you.
It doesn't sound like it.
Because that's not gonna help your plowing. You've gone from a class 4, we'll maintain it, and we'll grade it like we do. We don't grade every class 4 road in town. But we don't plow any. I'm not aware of any class 4 road that we plow, but you're asking us to plow it.
I am this year. I mean, for 8 years, we didn't. I'm aware of that. But then this year, when things got to where they are, and with the difficulties we had last year with oil not being delivered, that's when I did say, yeah, I think it's time. With 5 families there, I do think it's time. And
So what, in essence, if we're gonna plow it, I think what Peter's saying, that it has to be upgraded to a class 3 or we can't plow it.
and that's why we've said, if that's the case, then let's upgrade to class 3.
So I think that process would be handing Mike and those 5 families a copy of the specifications that the road needs to meet
They
the
have.
class 3.
Yeah.
And have them entertain what the cost of upgrading that is. Because for one, until anybody understands what those costs are, I don't think that anybody can make a decision to know what's feasible and not feasible for anybody, whether it's for you or for the town. I personally do not support upgrading that section to a class 3 with the town's resources. At what point do we look at the fact that I have a driveway that's a third of what you guys want to maintain here? I've got to maintain that myself. The class 4, everybody that bought on that, whether you knew or not, they need to maintain that.
I have a driveway that length too, and I'm not asking anybody to do my driveway, Randy.
So it would be a different story for me if, like Paul was saying, it was a through road or something like that made connections to a larger portion of traffic, lots of other considerations. I wasn't around when East Bear Swamp took place, or when the whole action that you feel vilified for. So I too take offense to you coming to to this body and projecting that on us and saying that's why we stopped this from moving forward, because I personally only know what you spoke of tonight. I think that's the first step. Before we even have a hearing, I think if we want to have this conversation in a further manner, I think we should hand them the specs for a class 3 road and.
Don't you think all that would be brought out at the hearing though? I just think the hearing is the process. They should definitely have the specs. They should definitely understand that the result of this may be that, you know, we say to them, if you want it to be class 3, you're gonna have to upgrade it, but follow our process.
I mean, you call it a hearing, but actually, we go out there and look at it. Is that
No,
correct?
As part of the hearing you do, yes.
As part of the hearing, you look at it.
But I just want to back up a minute because, you know, we have over the years made an effort to grade and repair culverts on sections of class 4 road, which service residents where they need access to their property. I mean, the class 4, not all of them, but we've made an effort to do that when it was possible to do.
When it was possible and when there weren't higher ranking priorities or they came upon the time to do it.
Absolutely.
The big difference
Absolutely.
here, I feel, is that we're not just being asked to grade the road once every 3 years or once every, 2 years or once a year even. We want you to grade the road, we want you to maintain the road, we want you to plow the road.
Randy, all I'm saying is, I understand what they're asking for, but I would tell you right now, there's a serious problem about how passable that road is. And to say and agree that we would try and grade it, which I think we've already agreed to, that we would try and grade it before winter time and make it better. And Eric was talking about even potentially putting a truck or 2 load of material in there so the water could run off into the ditch. I think it's appropriate for us to consider doing that and not say, we have to deal with this whole issue and get to the end of the plowing and the class 3 issue before we can do that. There's a problem there right now.
I think we want to address it.
I think
I
that's a
agree.
different conversation.
No, that's all
than the
I'm
bigger
saying.
ones.
So I'm saying that's why I said this is 2 different things.
Yeah.
And thing number 1, I think we can substantially improve in the near future. Exactly when it can happen is going to be up to Vic and Aaron. But there is a huge washout down that hill, and it's a problem.
Well, one of the problems is that there's not much gravel on that road. You're just trying to grade stones.
Randy, if I may just add one more thing, in regards to the plowing, I know that this could potentially be a rabbit hole. I just want to remind the board members who have been part of it, the ongoing discussions with Brian Redmond on the class 4 section of Notch Road leading up to the town forest. And that has been an ongoing issue, which I believe we haven't heard much of lately, but open that can of worms and it's going to get extremely messy extremely quickly, because that has been an ongoing issue for Peter, I'm thinking probably the better part of three years now.
Longer than that.
Yeah. So I just want to keep that in the back of the board's mind and maybe just, so Mike knows that this isn't something that happens a lot and it's not taken lightly because of, there's a lot of safety issues and funding issues that go into all of these things.
Well, so again, to get to the chase here, I think what you're hearing from us is some work is going to be done on that road in the near future before winter. I can't promise you when it's going to be, but it's on the list and the work is to be done. So in terms of the other issue, which is the upgrade issue, my recommendation would be that we have a hearing and we get the evidence and exactly what you're talking about, Randy. Find out what the cost is, find out what's involved, whether it's the town paying for it or the residents paying for it. We should go out and inspect the road and see what it is. I did go out and look at it kind of in preparation for tonight, just so I was sure I had a good updated view of what the road is, but I think we do. And I understand what everything says, but in prioritizing where we do work on class 4 roads, it should be where we have residents who need access. There are lots of class 4 roads where that is not an issue.
Do your, just out of a question of, do your neighbors and you have a problem with grading that road all the way through?
Yeah, I think,
Do you want that to be a class
let me
3?
speak only for me.
Yeah.
For me, I don't want it graded or plowed all the way through. I like the country nature of it.
That's what I
really do.
thought. Yeah,
And I think let me not speak for the others, but I'm not seeking that. Look, South Bear Swamp Road is plowed for 1.6 miles. Why not 1.9? That's my only point, when you can serve
Why not
5 more families
2.5?
that way.
Why not?
It's, you gotta stop somewhere. Why
Right,
stop?
but it's only prudent to go, and I may be getting smashed here by my fellow select board people, but I mean, if we do it, if we agree to do that, I think it's only prudent to go all the way through and make that a through road to East Bear, so that you have an alternate route. I've heard many people say that I can't get down East Bear, so I had to go through South Bear. Which you can do now. I mean, you can drive through if you have a 4-wheel drive vehicle.
In the 3 months a year you can, or 9 months a year you can, you're right, yeah.
Right.
I think, my point is, any road that's 3 or 4 can be upgraded or downgraded anytime. We can stop East Bear Swamp here or back here, upgrade, downgrade, change it all to a trail if you want to. You have extraordinary discretion. You gotta do it for the right reasons, but you have extraordinary discretion. And all I'm saying here is, if on East Bear Swamp, you're gonna go an extra half, at South Bear Swamp, you already go 1.6, why not go another 3/10? That's gonna cost extra. Back in 2019, I said, look, if it's gonna cost an extra X amount of dollars to plow another yards to get the I'll pay for that plus 50%. The town would have paid money. And so it couldn't have been a budget issue.
I think the problem is the minute you do it for
I'm
one.
gonna cut you off.
Sorry, what was that?
I think what we need to do is make a decision about whether we're gonna have the hearing, what the next step is. And
Andy, what did you say to that? What was your question, your response? to that?
go ahead, Randy.
I was just gonna say that the minute somebody takes an offer and throws it out there like that, and we do it for you, we have to do it for 50 other people.
But if the budget.
And it's
issue-
not, well, it might be a capacity issue and not necessarily a budget issue. It's an equity issue. There are a lot of other issues and it doesn't just come down to budget. If
appreciate
folks
that.
that have
I do
money in their
appreciate that.
wallet can afford to pay the town to come in and plow all their stuff for them, but then we have half the town that doesn't have that capability.
I fully agree. It should be equity and transparency and, look, we're paying a lot of money right now to have the road plowed every winter, a lot of money. It's costing us a lot more than it would cost us to have the truck go another couple 100 yards and pay that. But the town would have saved money, we would have saved money. That was not and everybody would have been treated better. And I was willing to pick it up and benefit my families, but that was not an option given. It didn't make sense to me. And it's within your power today to do the thing that does help the town and help 5 residents. I'm sorry if we got off on the wrong foot in this board meeting. I give you my word under oath. There are things that happened before this road issue arose.
And
that-
those should be a completely separate
Well,
issue.
then let's keep them separate and let's make this completely on its notes.
I have one other question about this quote. I know you want to quit, and so do I, but Mike has brought up the point that, many of us have been there for 30 years, paying $1,000 a year for plowing, and so this is coming from 5 different families along this road that have been there for, you know, decades. And so if there's any other equivalent of that in this town or surrounding towns, you know, that the town really realizes that it's a financial burden on that set of families,
We do.
you know, that makes, is something to
We
take
do.
into consideration.
We do, and we're aware of, you know, I'm not saying each one of us is aware of every situation in town, but we're certainly aware of where the private roads are, where the class 4 roads are. I mean, absolutely, we're aware of that.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I just didn't know how exceptional that was.
no, it's not unusual at all.
No, I
As
mean-
Liz pointed out, it's a very
Many.
common, it's a very common situation. It's a challenge. Quite frankly, it's a challenge for us as a community. As the community grows and as there are more and more houses on class 4 roads and on private roads and all these different things, it's a challenge for us to try and manage that in an equitable and fair manner.
Yeah.
So, you know, believe me, we know, don't think we don't know. We do know. So.
Well, I would be in favor of having a hearing only because it's just, you know, they will get their 5% signatures and we'll have to do it regardless. And there's a reason why in state statute, there even is discussion of turning class 2 4s into class 3s, right? This isn't like an unheard of request, right? This is something that happens, right? So, you know, we can, if we vote against it, they'll get their 5% signatures, probably is my guess. They'll go around, people will say, sure, yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I think they will. I
And
think they
so-
will too, and that's all I'm saying.
Right.
Why make them jump through that hurdle? We can agree tonight that we'll have the hearing and initiate the process.
Right. That's what I mean, this has to be a vote, though. It doesn't.
I don't know if Victor and Randy are ready to support that or not, or one of them is. One of them's got it.
One of them is.
I just, you know, I hate things. I mean, in a perfect world, I'd love to be able to tell you that we'll be down there with excavators and dump trucks and everything else and make it a class 3 road for you, because it seems like a nice thing to do, but you've heard from other board members tonight about all the other issues we face and
I need you to know this isn't, this isn't attacked at you, Mike. I mean, I've got friends past you, right? Like that. I would love for them to, this isn't against you. This is clearly not just an easy decision that we can come up with, because it does continue to set precedent that the Leland Farm Road people will be coming, because there's all of that development coming up. This is just extra costs. And I read in there, I could actually petition to the town and say, I've got 5 people in my driveway. I can petition to the town and say, I want this to be, I can give you a place to turn around your plows. I can do that. And they would likely say no, right? Even though there's 5 families and even though the fuel guy can't get up there, but we know that like this is just Middlesex, right? We've lived here. So, you know, I commiserate with the families who live on that road. I really do. Like, this is not, you know, I personally have the same thing. It's just not a class 4 that I live on.
Ours is not a drive.
So I know.
I'm sorry. I was just waiting for a bit, so I don't mean to interrupt. But I do appreciate what you're saying, though. In the meantime, if we could possibly get Vic and Eric to come up and maybe do a little something to the road, because I would say at this point in time, yes, my husband did call a while back. And since then, it has gotten substantially worse, to the point that my 9-year-old son typically would ride his bike to the mailboxes, and we refuse to let him do that now because it has become such a safety issue for him. So if we could at least get something like that repaired to where I know that it wouldn't be a hazard any longer. And then if we go forward with the hearing, that would be fantastic. But at least in the meantime, knowing that this isn't going to be a hazard any longer.
I think that's where we're at right now.
yeah.
Sarah, I don't know if you heard that, but I think that's where the conversation's at already.
Okay. Yeah, I know it kept coming up, but I wasn't sure. It didn't sound like we had agreed upon that. And I know when John previously called, it seemed a little unsure to him too, and even kind of came up and mentioned that, well, it could always go back to a trail, which was worrisome to us. Because I work at U32, so I need to make it to school every day. My kids need to make it to the bus stop. So that became a concern for us and why we pursued this, due to the possibility to letting it go and becoming a trail or a hazard. So that's just kind of where we stand.
I'm not aware of any discussion by anybody about throwing the road up or downgrading into a trail. So
It was just mentioned in passing when my husband had initially called about the problem.
Yeah.
It was mentioned to my husband in passing.
All right, so do we have to call a vote on it? Whether or not we're gonna have a hearing?
we should.
Okay, so I move that we have a hearing to discuss the upgrade of.
Like, Liz, can I just, if you're gonna do that, I would just revise your motion to say, and I'll put this in the minutes, but pursuant to VSA 19, section 709, to proceed to begin the process for considering an upgrade of what point, we need some mileage, we need definite mileage, if
Okay.
anybody has it, of that portion of the road.
Write that. motion.
So you can say a certain segment now, but when I do the notices and I'll make sure that we have a certain mileage that you guys are considering.
0.4.
0.4.
0.4, okay, 0.4 from the class 3 section, going west or going east, going
From
on.
323 to 406.
Yep.
And it's 0.3.
Watch out. Right.
From-
I don't understand. If we're gonna have a hearing on upgrading
That's what she's listing is the motion for that
class
hearing.
3, Title 19, section 709.
Right,
And she's calling it 4/10 of a row of mile. Well, we just got done talking. I think it should be, how far is it out the East Hill?
well, maybe we don't have to be that specific in the motion, but
Yeah,
just.
so
start the-
I see where Victor's going.
Yeah,
Uh,
I get it.
just to say for sections of South Bear Swamp,
Okay,
class
right,
4 section of South Bear Swamp.
okay, right.
And it makes it sound like I'm being.
Wait, Pete,
Folks.
Rob's turn. Okay, go ahead, Rob.
Folks, I think if you're going to make a decision tonight to schedule a statutory hearing, you really need to need to be clear as a board exactly what it is you're going to schedule a hearing about and not leave it to some future date to determine which portion of this road you're going to put before, a hearing, because that will require another formal vote from you. You'll have to do that at another hearing. So if a majority of the board is inclined to schedule a statutory hearing without the need for a petition, that's absolutely fine. But you should make a determination tonight as to what portion of the road you're talking about. And again, it doesn't have to be super specific, but the 0.4 mile section, extending from the current terminus of the class 3 area is fine, something like that. But if you don't have a majority that wants to do that, that's one issue, and you'll know that tonight. But I wouldn't vote to just say, we're gonna schedule a hearing and we'll figure out later how much of the road we're gonna subject to the hearing. I don't think that's good policy.
Okay.
I also think it gets you a lot of trouble down the road.
Not to pun.
No pun intended.
I second that, just only because I know previously it was discussed that if it was brought up to class 3 standard, that we, the homeowners would be responsible for the cost. And if we're going to extend it all the way through to East Bear, does that then become beneficial to the town and become a cost to the town? Or are we then required to foot the bill for that whole portion as well? So that would be helpful for us to know.
Totally different thing. I understand what you're saying, Victor, but I think.
Well, it's
I
a
think we're gonna-
benefit to doing it because you just said McCullough Hill Road was a plus because it was a through road. So to reinforce your case for upgrading the road, I would think you'd want to go all the way through.
Does
I'm
Minot?
speaking only for myself. I'm
Right, I
very-
understand you said that. I understand that very well. Yeah,
does-
I understand.
No, it's where Menashe owns is already on the class 3 portion. Correct?
All the way up to the top part.
It's only class 4, but you can access that part through to class 3. But the part of Menage extends about 150 yards on the class 4. Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
one Menage, it's been sold.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor.
Well, no, we don't. Are we saying 0.4?
So what do you said? Point
Yeah.
four?
Yeah, 0.4. Okay, yeah, that's my motion is 0.4.
So we need a second. Gentlemen,
You don't have to vote on it if you second it, just so you know.
I don't believe I can second it.
Why can't you second it?
I think you
I don't
can.
think there's a.
Well, it looks like
maybe
we
I
should
should-
go for the 5%,
You're a
because I
voting
think 2
member.
people don't even want to have a hearing. So I think we should probably go for the 5%. I think it's, well, I mean, you can take a vote if you want, but it's pretty clear to me.
We also have another select board member who isn't here tonight.
Right. Okay, well, the motion dies for lack of a second. So,
Alrighty.
your goal, Mike, is get that 10% and we'll have the hearing.
I'm not sure I'm gonna do that. I came here and, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do at this point.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, we're gonna do the class 4 maintenance that we promised.
In the meantime, you're gonna what?
Do the class 4 maintenance, which we promised.
Okay, I appreciate it.
And Victor, you'll get a hold of Mike or Eric will.
Why would we need Mike? We know how to create a road without Mike. Tell us what to do.
Okay, or maybe you don't need a meeting.
So that.
But I mean,
Do you wanna know?
what Eric was talking about was the little bit, not a lot of material, little bit of material, just the lack of gravel on that seam.
Yeah.
Because why are they?
I'm happy to go either way, Nick. I'm happy to meet with you, but if you don't want to meet, that's your
It's
impression.
not, I just don't see the necessity.
Right.
This time,
because
but if
this
we
is
do,
what
we'll give you a
happened
call.
was it was written on the wrong checking account number.
Simple as that.
So it's.
So the other, just
actually
getting to that issue, if you're not gonna go out there and meet with them, when I went out there, am I correct that there is no culvert at the end of your driveway?
Well, I fixed it.
No culverts, there's a
Yeah,
culvert
no, that's.
across underneath my driveway, but no.
At the end of the
Right.
driveway?
Sorry, I think it's Dorinda and Liz that are talking at the end, and so you can't hear the others, but they're now all muted.
Uh,
Sarah, the meeting is muted. The meeting room
Okay.
is muted. Yeah.
Rob, I'm not sure if you could help me. I had a question. They mentioned. one of the
David,
select
sorry,
board-
could you just stop for a second? I'm sorry.
Hold on,
sir.
everybody.
Yeah.
There's like a million.
They're
people
okay, they're all unmuted now.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It was mentioned that one of the other select board members isn't present. Is it possible for them, if coming back to the minutes, to vote after this, or must they be present to vote?
They have to be present.
They would need to be present to vote.
And is it the 5% signatures we need to get, or 10? Because I thought it was 5 before, and then I thought.
5% of the registered voters.
Okay,
Roughly
Okay.
7
thank you.
people, right, Sarah?
75, that's the magic number.
All right, got it. Thank you.
So what I'm trying to suggest, Victor, is and maybe I'm wrong. I mean, maybe you go up there and look at it and say, no, that isn't necessary. But when I looked at it, it looked to me like it needed a culvert there.
You want us to-
I don't know what you thought when you looked at it today.
I didn't look at it.
No.
Yeah, I would think that if Victor and Eric go up, they can come up with a plan. If Mike needs a culvert at the end of his driveway to rectify the issue, then at that point, they can reach out and discuss.
Yeah.
You know, I'll leave it up to the experts.
Yeah, no, that's fine with me. Anything further, anyone? Mike, you have anything else?
I'm set. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your time and patience. This has been a lot tonight.
I'll say.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
So we have a few other quick things on our agenda here. We need to approve the minutes of the select board meeting. Is there a motion? Okay,
Where are we?
The meeting.
we're down at the other business.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes of the October 4th, 2022 select board meeting, say aye.
All right.
Aye. Approving an agreement with FEMA to extend the performance period for Rich Road.
This is something you've already agreed on. This is just a technical thing giving me permission to sign it. It's an agreement that, this is the Rich Road buyout.
Okay,
So-
so you need a motion on that?
Just need a motion saying, yes, we extend the agreement to October 31st, 2023.
I'll make that motion and authorize Sarah to sign that.
Thank you.
Liz seconded it. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Orders are signed or being signed. Correspondence?
Nope.
Any other matters to come before the board? I
Just
think we-
quickly, this Engineering Ventures, which looks like it's number 6, actually belongs to Sanford and Strauss Architects.
Oh, thank you, Liz.
Yeah.
Good, thanks, yeah. I was gonna ask that.
So we'll be hearing from you, Liz, right?
You will be hearing from me. Yep. I sent an email to Dave Magida.
Good.
And
I
hopefully-
appreciate all the work you guys are doing on this. This is a lot.
Yeah, well, really, it's Dave and Sandy.
Hey, we're
Don't
giving
cut
you
yourself
credit.
short,
We're
Liz.
giving you credit, Liz. We're giving you a lot of.
I'm learning a lot about engineering.
So are we adjourned?
Yes. So
Thank-
with that, I'm declaring the meeting.
Thanks for
adjourned.
coming.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Rob.
Rob.
Bye-bye.